for your stock. Remember, there's no stock market for this stuff. There's no way to say what it's worth. And it's not your old investor that gives you that higher price, it's a new investor. Because structure drives behavior. One of the structures is because of limited partners who invest in these venture capital firms, there's a conflict of interest of this investor setting the price for the second round. So we need a new investor to come into every round to set the price. It's a wonderful thing. It allows this investor to stand back and be the entrepreneur's friend. You get alignment then. Because this investor, even though he's going to invest in the next round, is no longer negotiating against the entrepreneur. He's negotiating with the entrepreneur because most of the money is going to come from somebody else. He needs most of the money to come from a lead investor, somebody else. You might think it's a bad thing in some ways because this investor really wants to hog this for himself. But he can't because he has a conflict of interest. So he yields at least half of this round to the new investor who sets the value and the term. And that allows the Series A investor to be on the entrepreneur side because these terms, if they're punishing, are also punishing his earlier investment, the money he put in here. Otherwise, it would strictly be adversarial. Structure is a wonderful thing. And it's happened by almost accident. Nobody designed this, it happened. All right. Another element of structure drives behavior is that there's no safety net. If you fail, you die. You go home, we shut the door. Now you might get more time, you might get another shot, but fundamentally, it's not like a government program, it's not like a corporate program. If you fail on a corporate program, what do? If you're any good, you know you're failing. And what do? Declare success and get out of the position. Right? And hand off the project to somebody else who's aspirational and is looking for a promotion. And you get this poor guy or gal promoted and you say, it's so fantastic you have this opportunity. I'm sorry, I'm being transferred to Brazil. Right? And you get away from this thing. And you don't die. Well, there is no transfer to Brazil in a startup. There's no lifeboat. That's a structural element that big corporations don't have working for them. That's what makes it hard for a big corporation to pull this off. A proof point. This is John Freeman again. A proof point that John gave me was this present. He said, in organizations, people can only learn so fast, and there's a flaw in your argument, Jeremy. The flaw is that success will breed complexity. And people can only learn, teams can only learn so fast. You must have lived through this. And therefore, if what you're saying about growth is true, you're going to have complexity outpace the team's ability to manage. Like when you learn to drive. I'll tell the same story twice in one day. On the way over this morning, I was eating my oatmeal and on the phone and driving at the same time. I do it almost every morning. I got the micro headset on, I need that time to use, I never have time to eat my breakfast, and I got to get to school or wherever I'm going. If I was 16 and learning to drive, could I do that? No. Driving down the street, I'd have to be paying attention. Is that guy pulling out? But I don't have to do that at 66 because I've got neurons built into me that automatically know where I'm turning, make decisions for me, and I show up hopefully saying, how did I ever get here? I was on the phone, right? So that's what you need in businesses, and that's what you can acquire. If you can find the right people who have been there before and done that before and integrate them into the organization in a way that's not destructive, it elevates. It doesn't make people learn faster. It just simply changes the mix so you're way up out of the complexity again. Because when the young guys sit there saying, what do I do? You say, don't worry about it. I know so-and-so in India, he'll spin up a team for us. In 3 weeks, we'll have that product spec'd out. He may or may not be right, but he has or she has a pathway through the complexity. They've done it before. They have relationships they exploit. So what that means is that in many cases, you get the entrepreneur thinking like the investor. Because the early stage entrepreneur recognizes that their exit and their value is going to depend on creating value. And if they're going to be CEO forever, they may not be able to attract the talent they need to build the organization. Now, some people can build organizations, and stay on top of them and manage it under them. And other people should be stepping aside, staying in the organizations and contributing, but allowing others to lead. In any case, you have to manage this issue, and that's another proof point for me, structure driving behavior. Because if you get the entrepreneur thinking like an investor, you have really alignment then among those two parts. All right, so we're back to this curve in the sweet spot. You see this thing roll out time and time again. Where are we today? Okay. Where we are today is the shifting, bits and bytes of services. We went from steel and fabrication, bits and bytes, and now we're in the service domain. If I go down the hall here, and I really don't know if it's down the hall, but if we walk down the hall, we're going to find a bunch of businesses that if they were doing what they were doing 10 years ago, it wouldn't have sounded like service organizations. It would have been building software that would have been licensed and sold or whatever. Now, you retain that and make it accessible to others, manage it in the cloud. And I'm not just talking about Dropbox or Google Drive. I'm talking about anything you need to do on your computer. Essentially, theoretically, is often available in the cloud. And there are reasons to access it in the cloud. Like even financial planning. My best portfolio company right now is the most boring company. It's wonderful. I love it. It's a financial planning, software company. Adaptive Plan. Okay. And we just raised $30 million from great investors, Norwest. And this is going to be $1 billion company. Where's Wood? Thank you. I might have just killed my slide again. But my point is, it's just a software as a service thing, and I don't care whether you call it apps or whatever you're going to call it. It's essentially some blending of software as a service, using stuff that you don't have to do. It comes to you on whatever platform you're working on. So that's where we are. It's happening faster and faster. This slide simply proves it to you. In the United States, telephone dissemination took 75 years. Cell phone dissemination to ubiquity took 15 years. Chile, what do you think your landline dissemination is to households? 50%?
Actually, it's going down now because we have over 100%.
You have over 100%, right? And you have whatever you achieved, you didn't achieve ubiquity, right? So you got to some number of 50% or whatever. But so what I'm saying is these lines cross, right? And now the cycles speed up on you. So not only does the new product achieve greater ubiquity than the old product, like who has a computer? Everybody has 3, right? So, more than 100% penetration. But things speed up, so you need to be building businesses that not just innovate, but compound innovation on innovation in shorter and shorter cycles. This is a factoid about the media business and the music business and how it did it. But this is the point I wanted to get to around investment. This is where one of you, not saying you personally, but someone sitting around says, yeah, but what about the internet bubble? Right? And the point is you have to remove what's going on in the investment world from what's going on in the real world. The investment world invests in follow the leader, right? In momentum. So things get hot, they sizzle, they pop, and then they crash. Too little. The internet. But internet usage in this time frame, and I was lucky, my last big startup, I was able to exit right there, thank you very much. And I really avoided this pain, right? But internet usage, went to ubiquity, right? We call this pervasive adoption. Everybody's grandmother now is on the internet. It's not, there's nobody left, right? Very few left who don't have access, don't have use. So this thing of a bubble is not true. It's only true in the financial market. It's not true in the real world. So as innovators and leaders of communities of innovation, you have to have the stomach to understand how people separate buzz and bubbles from reality. And yes, buzz and bubbles are going to kill companies because they're going to raise money on the bubble and then not be able to sustain it. Tough luck. You got to be able to know where you are and keep moving. It doesn't mean that fundamentally you will win. I can do a Facebook versus Google comparison, but it's just to demonstrate how Facebook in one marketplace, the UK, went 3x its penetration, at the time Google only went 20%. So what does that mean? I mean, they're both great numbers, but it's just about the speed and the rapidity of change. So, internet, yak, yak, yak. How entrepreneurs and VCs deal with the speed of change, yak, yak, yak. What we're dealing with is the emergence of hugely viral enterprise. And it's the virality that is really creating value and leveraging virality and user-generated content. I know I'm only taking one small segment of technology commercialization as an example, but it's the one we most understand. And what's new is the business model. In this case, it's user-generated content versus broadcasting, and it's for sharing, right? Then not all of them work, right? Because Yahoo Buzz died. So copying isn't enough, although copying can be very powerful. What's the German, the two guys in Germany?
Samba.
Samba, right? So that can be an innovative process, a diffusion process, very legitimate. So when you're copying to knock something off, you just have to do it in a way that has power into itself. So with Dig and with StubHub, not StubHub, pardon me, help me out, I love it. Stumble upon. Thank you. We're getting curation. The difference, the difference in curation between Dig and StumbleUpon is different, right? This is more, Dig is personalized curation. This is sort of institutionalized curation. But it's taking user-generated content and curation to add value. You have, things like this presented to you by Surprise.